bad addict. Every time I was able to get a loan, I was doing drugs.
I've been to prison 4 times, twice in the state, twice in the fed.
I was doing all this crazy stuff, cooking drugs and just staying high.
God called me from a prison cell. I was a homeless drug addict, and my hope was found in a needle.
I was 8 months pregnant, homeless, living out of my van.
You know, it wasn't Freeway that saved me, it wasn't John Stroup that saved me, but God uses Freeway in such a mighty way as a tool to reach these people.
There's not a community or a county in America that doesn't have a drug problem. And the church has the answer, and it's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you for joining us for One Broken Life. My name is John Stroup with my special guest, Miss Sue Gunter. Good to have you today.
Thank you. Good to be here, I think.
It's going to be great. So One Broken Life is a podcast that explores the details of individuals' lives. And a lot of times we focus on people who are struggling with addiction, who come out of a background like similar to mine. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we explore people who have been affected by addiction in different areas. And we know that addiction is a family issue, and so is recovery.
Very much so.
It affects everybody.
Yes. And
so I'm thrilled to have you on here today. One of the theme verses for our podcast is Psalms 51:17. David is his repentant psalm, and he says in the psalm, the sacrifice of God are a broken heart and a contrite spirit, humility and brokenness. And he says God won't despise those things. And so so can we just start, Miss Sue, with you introducing yourself? Who are you, where you come from, that kind of thing?
I'm Sue Gunter. I think usually when I talk Freeway, I always say Michael's mother, but I'm married to Randy, and we live down at Willow Springs now.
Okay.
So.
All right. And you're from the South, right?
Yes. I lived with my parents, dysfunctional family, then moved to Missouri to live with my grandparents.
Okay.
And my grandmother had me at church every time the door was open.
Awesome. And so what was it like raising 2 crazy boys?
Coming from a dysfunctional family, you kind of think, I'll do just the opposite of that. And so, we brought them up in church, loved them. That was the biggest thing. Unconditional love, which soon probably turned into helicopter love and enabler love, because you still think you're seeing those little boys that were so good, until they got to be teenagers or whatever. But, okay. Yeah.
So tell us about your family, your home. You're married to Randy,
mm-hmm.
And then
yes.
You have 2 sons.
Yes, I have 2 sons, Michael and Jason. Jason's a pastor. Michael is single. And he would probably kill me for saying that, but he is. But he's going to missions, doing really good. Struggled for a long time, was always the best kid in school. And I think that's one thing that makes it really hard on parents is all through school, whatever it was, he excelled. He was gifted and talented. He was a star athlete. In little bitty grades, he would get like student of the month or whatever because he was just a good kid and he was very lovable. But when he got to a senior year in high school and blew out his knee, his life he thought was over. And Randy worked in the floor mill business, and so we moved a lot. Well, the year that Michael graduated, we moved away. So it was probably a really hard time then. But, nothing really started till then because, he graduated summa cum laude, got to college. And, I always said when he threw his hat up at graduation, his brain went with it. But the struggles that he went through, I don't know why. I truly believe he struggles from addiction. Yeah. It's not just playing around because you want to, which I think is how most kids start out or whatever. But I think it was really a battle.
So for me, just kind of how Sue and I, how we met, someone brought Michael Gunter to Freeway and introduced me to him, and he was his name was David, and David Hupman, and David and I were cellmates in prison. So David's the one that introduced me to Dewey Houston. I don't know if you knew that or not, but so David said, "Hey, I got a friend. He was in jail with him. I know him from prison. Maybe even addiction, and he needs help." And so Mike started coming to Freeway, our outreach and stuff, and that's kind of how we got connected. And then Mike, Michael, he I don't call him Michael, but you do.
Yes,
but,
I do.
He, did really good, and then some things happened, and he's had some stumbles since then, and so you're on my phone contact as Mama Sue. That's
Yes.
your name on my contact.
I think I was that way to everybody in whatever house he was in. So yeah.
And so let's kind of just talk through what I would like to do is just talk through kind of the struggles you had enabling Mike, and then how you overcame those things, and then and then today kind of walking through some of these points of enabling from my book, and then maybe we could just touch on those things, and we could probably help some people. So when did you realize that you had a struggle with enabling?
In all honesty, probably when I heard you at some point talk about enabling was a form of child abuse. And that really stuck with me. It really hit me hard and gave me a lot to think about. And I thought, that's me. And really, Randy and I did a terrible job of getting through this. I mean, we've always been in church somewhere, and probably at the beginning of Michael's problems, we went to a big church and never got involved in a small group because we could go in and we could go out. And it was like we carried that dark veil of shame. We thought we did something wrong. It's our fault that this has happened. And when they're 5, you can fix it with a Band-Aid and a, kiss or tell them, get up and walk it off. But addiction is just so different. You don't understand it, especially if you've never seen it at all firsthand, which we hadn't. So every time Mike would get to a certain point and he would say, I've got this, I'm doing good, we'd believe him, because you don't realize the manipulation and the lies. And he was a high-functioning addict for a long time, and we didn't realize that.
I don't know anyone that I can say they're smarter than Mike. I mean, I can say that person's pretty smart, but that guy is sharp, and he's very talented. And so
Yes.
addiction doesn't it doesn't care what color your skin is.
No.
Doesn't care about your IQ or where you come from. It affects, I've had pro golfers in a program. I've had people who were very wealthy. I've had people who couldn't read. It's all the same. And so as we walk through, just kind of thinking through, enabling for me is doing something for someone they could do for themselves. To me, that's enabling. So anyone that can do something, if they can do something and I do it for them, I'm enabling them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I remember when I met you, and I forgot I said that about the child abuse. So that's a good
Yes,
one. I
you
have to
did.
remember
It's
that.
true. Yeah, it really hit me.
As you're walking through this with Mike, before we kind of get into these other things, how did that affect you and Randy, Randy and Jason? I mean, I know Mike, there was a time where he couldn't see his nieces, right? He
That's
couldn't
right,
go over
that's
to his
right.
brother's house. Like, what's that like? Can you explain that to me?
Well, I think it goes through phases. I think at first it's like dealing with death, every day. It's just a sadness that you just, you can't fix it, and you're praying. And I feel like when I get to heaven, the Lord's going to say, why did you pray like you were 5 and bawl your eyes out or whatever? But we all dealt with it different. And Randy is the really black and white person and hard. And when the boys were growing up, their friends were always afraid of him. They were afraid of Mr. Randy. He could give them a look. But when it came to dealing with everything, we still saw that that boy that had excelled in everything. And I will never forget the first time Michael was arrested. Randy spent, I don't know, a couple days on the phone probably saying, you don't understand, you know, my son is, you know, too innocent to be in there with all those people. And I think that's one of the really, really hard things with addiction is seeing that once they get into drugs, the drug takes over. Your child really, it doesn't even register when you're talking to him, because we talked to Michael different times, but he was strung out. And Jason finally kept saying, why are you wasting your time? Because he's not hearing anything you're saying. And then, you know, I just felt like, you know, when he would go through something, that he had to hit the bottom of the pit before he ever started looking up. And one thing about Freeway, a lot of the things at first I thought sounded like military camp, but I thought, well, this is good. And we realized that Michael was serious because he didn't have a car, he didn't have a ride, and I can't remember where he was going to do his computer work, but it was like a mile away or whatever, and he was walking to and from work. And Randy and I both were like, this is different, because I think when they first really start looking for help, which they have to do, we can't push them into it, because we tried that before and that didn't work, because they'll do, oh yeah, I did it and I'm good. But it takes them doing it and you standing back and no, not offering a ride, which I would have, of course.
Were you worried about him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, really worried about him.
Did it affect you and Randy as far as your unity in marriage when you was going through all the stuff, not knowing, do we bail him out? Don't we bail him out? Do we give him money? Do we pick him up? Do we let him come?
Yeah, there was a lot of praying and a lot of tears and a lot of grieving. Yeah. We were grieving for the life we wanted him to have and the path that he had decided to take. And you know that he OD'd in our house. And, you know, that was just it. We knew he struggled and we hated it. And, I mean, we had to call 911 and the ambulance and the helicopter and everything. And as we were riding from the house to Mercy, you know, we're just so distraught. And we've thought, you know, Lord, we've helped him and, you know, he's your son. And, you know, why haven't you taken this from him? And prayed that if he couldn't beat this addiction, that the Lord would take him home. That's it takes a long time to get there. It shouldn't, but it did, and it was really hard. And by the time we got to Mercy, setting up just talking. And we're like, oh, I mean, I thought I was going to have a heart attack during all that. And he had some ups and downs after that, but it's watching and making sure that you stand back and don't do things. And the last time that he'd had a problem and Randy told him he had to leave and we sent him off with his stuff, you know, we both stood there and held each other and just bawled our eyes out. It was terrible. We didn't know if we'd see him again, you know, because we couldn't help. We tried and we just couldn't. And I think as parents, we pray, but then we're not exercising our faith, because we pray for the Lord to fix it, but then think we can fix it.
We give it to him, we take it back.
Yes, and we can't.
Yeah, that's that. The Bible talks about the person who is double-minded.
Yes.
In James.
Yes.
Like the wind and the waves and the sea. And I call that consistently inconsistent. And so 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, 1 minute you give it to him, 1 minute you take it away, 1 minute you trust him, 1 minute you don't. And so I'm very proud of Mike right now.
I am too.
You know, he's in college. He's doing a great job working for CMC, has a career, living on campus, helping his brother church plant.
Yes.
And so I just want to verbalize that because we have a victory, right?
Yes, we do.
And
we
so
do.
We
lived long enough. We absolutely do.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So,
nice to see him laugh.
Amen.
Yeah.
And
you know, smile.
I call him when I need something. I tell people I'm the type of guy that's going to call you when I need something.
Yes.
I'm not going to pretend you call me when you need something.
Yes.
And I call him and I need to lean on him for stuff, to design stuff for me and stuff like that. He's just really good at that. And I thought, well, we just walk through this together. And so I know there's someone who's listening, Miss Sue, who has, they're in the middle of enabling. There's somebody who's wondering where their child's at. There's somebody who's wondering if their mom's going to come home. I had some men at the house Sunday night, Sunday afternoon for lunch from the Marshfield house, and one of the kids, he's like 20 years old. And I said, what's God doing in your life? And he said, well, God's teaching me how to trust him. There's 6 of them. And I said, how's that? How is he doing that? And he said, well, I talked to my mom's parole officer this week.
Wow.
And he said, I can't have contact with her yet. And the parole officer, my mom's parole officer, couldn't tell me how my mom was doing, whether she was sober or not. But my mom's parole officer told me that she would tell my mom I was doing good. And my wife looked over at him and she said, I'll be your mom. And I just don't think sometimes people really get it.
Yeah.
You know, the diversity of this, of addiction and how it affects families. And I'm very thankful that Mike's got you and Randy, because you've been that pillar for him. And so there's people listening, is my point. I'm drifting, but there's people listening that need to be encouraged today and need some tools. And I've got a few points I want to talk to. Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 7 things that I really believe will help someone overcome enabling. And so, you know, it's everything I'm going to say today should have a stop in front of it. Okay. Stop doing this, start doing that. So the first one is stop trying to be Jesus.
That's it. Yes.
So have you had some problems with trying to be Jesus in Mike's life?
Well, yeah, when you pray about it and then you try to be the feet and you can't. That's just, you know, if I could go back and just knock sense into those people those years ago, but, you know, I don't know. We grew up together anyway, so it made it harder. But yeah, you have to pray and then you have to have faith, and you can't quit praying. It may take longer than we want it to take. You know, it may happen fast. Who knows, you know, what your journey is, but keep praying, but have faith, and then sit back. You have to sit back and watch the Lord work in their lives, because you'll see the change then.
So a few things Jesus does that we can't do. Jesus saves.
Yes.
Jesus convicts. Jesus transforms. Jesus is omnipresent. Jesus is all-knowing. So when I try to save somebody, guess what I'm trying to do? Be Jesus.
That's right.
When I try to convict somebody, when I try to be 2 places at once, you ever tried that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah.
When I try to know all things, where is he? Where is he at?
Yes.
What is he doing? Who's he with?
Yes.
Is
Doesn't
he
work.
in jail? Is he in the hospital? Jesus knows,
Yeah,
right?
he does.
And so we can't try to be Jesus, right? We have to realize, okay, what's my job as a brother, as a sister, as a mom, as a dad, as a friend to my drug addict friend? What's my responsibility and what's Jesus's responsibility? And so when I try to be Jesus, I get anxiety because it's impossible.
Yes.
But when I give it to Jesus, right, things change. So stop trying to be Jesus. Would you
Yes.
agree with that?
Definitely.
Okay. The second thing is stop creating a false world for them that doesn't exist. And I'll give you an example of that. You can chime in on this. So when I enable someone, first of all, I'm doing something for them that they can do for themselves. That's not the real world. People aren't going to do it for you, right?
Right.
In a false world of enablement, you make a mess, I clean it up. You run the bill down, I pay it.
Yes.
You get a ticket, I take care of it. Your car breaks down, I fix it. You sleep all day and eat all the food in the refrigerator. When you wake up, the refrigerator's full and the house is clean. Is that the real world? That's
I mean, it happens.
Is that your
Yes,
life?
but yeah,
Who
it
pays your
was.
tickets?
It was. Nobody does that for me. That was one thing Randy and I said all along. Nobody did that for us. You know, we had to pay our own bills. We had to do this. We had to do that. So why did it take us so long to figure that out?
Yeah.
You know, it's just praying, but not staying on your knees and not clinging to the faith and clinging to the love and knowing that God knows and he's with you. He's with you when you don't know where they are or what they're doing. But you keep praying and keep praying for the Lord to just break their heart. And usually that comes at rock bottom.
Yeah, and rock bottom's on my list. And we can talk about rock bottom right now since you brought it up. But rock bottom is not a place; it's a state of mind.
Yes.
And that's the understanding what rock bottom really is will help you not enable. And so, a lot of times people have a false concept of rock bottom because this is what they think. They think, how much worse can it possibly get? How much worse? Because they think that's rock bottom. A severity of a situation is rock bottom. So if this person OD'd and came back from the dead, if this person has lost their family tragically in a drug driving accident, they were driving the car, and you know, they think, how much worse can it get? But rock bottom is not the severity of a situation. Rock bottom is a state of mind.
Yes.
So I have to come to the place where I finally throw my hands up and surrender. That can happen in something that seems minute, right?
Yes.
And so when they hit rock bottom, that's when you start investing. That's when you start, you know, you wait until they hit rock bottom. So rock bottom is not a place, it's a state of mind. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes.
Because you could say, you know, you told me about, you know, Mike's situation where he had to call the ambulance and he had to get a helicopter flight in and all that stuff. Well, he made some bad mistakes since then, and they weren't as near as bad as that, right?
No.
But so the severity of the situation, well, it's not rock bottom.
No.
It's the state of mind.
Yes.
So I want to encourage somebody that maybe your child is, you think, or your loved one, you think, how bad can it get? How much worse? They can't hit rock bottom now. No, they can still hit rock bottom.
Yes.
So how about covering for them? Stop covering for them.
True. I mean, that's true.
Have you had that? Can you experience that? Have you experienced covering for them, making excuses? You know, like you said, Randy was on the phone for hours.
Yes.
You don't understand how good of a boy my son is.
Yes. And just my dysfunctional family growing up, everything I did wrong, I had a stepmother that would call and tell everybody. So I think I overcompensated for that, thinking, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody. It's okay. It's just this little thing. And just covering it up that way instead of being honest with myself and with him, you know. So, yeah.
So I had a mom come to my office. Her son became a heroin addict in prison. So he was not a heroin addict. She was kind of lived the drug culture life. He goes to prison. She gets sober. And in prison, he got hooked on heroin, okay?
Wow.
Which is strange to me. He waited till he got to prison to become a heroin addict, not on the street. Well, he gets out of prison and he moves in with his mom. And she felt really guilty. She felt bad for her past. She felt bad for how she raised him. And so she started enabling him. And it got so bad that she had to take the hinges off the doors in all the house. So they had no hinges on any doors. And the reason she had to take all the hinges off the doors is because so the EMT could get there quicker to save him with the Narcan.
Oh, wow.
Because he overdosed so many times. All of his ribs were broken from them pumping his chest
Yes,
many
yes.
times. And I mean, this was like a weekly thing. They would have to go and Narcan him and kick the door down, and he would lock him. He'd be overdosing in the bathroom on heroin, you know. And so she sat in my office, and I worked with this lady before, and I said, you have to kick him out.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you have to make him leave, and statistically, he's less likely to die of an overdose not in your house than in your house. Like, it's a little harder to overdose outside, and people ain't gonna like this. They're gonna say I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm right. You know, if I'm outside trying to do a shot of dope and I'm living on the street, it's more likely that I'm not gonna be able to, first of all, get away with it as easy.
Right.
Second of all, someone's gonna see me out there, you know. And so anyway, he was at the hospital while I was talking to her, and he's cussing her on the phone. Bring me my glasses. You come and get me right now. What are you doing? Where are you at? You know, just
Then
bossing.
it's an abusive relationship
man.
the other way.
It was
terrible.
not good. And she said, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. And so she made him leave. And she promised me she'd make him leave. And when he hit rock bottom, she'd offer him a program, this and that. Well, she caved. And then on Mother's Day, she went to visit her mom. And then she came home and she found him dead on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
Overdosed in her house.
In her house.
And I preached his funeral, this
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's not her fault. None of it's her fault. But, you know, I know she had guilt. And that's kind of the thing I wanted to mention is parenting out of guilt. Stop parenting out of guilt. And
Yes.
so for me, this is what I see. It's kind of like trying to atone for your own sin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I made a lot of mistakes when he was young. I got angry too much. I wasn't living like I should have lived. He's seen things. I brought so-and-so around, whatever the case may be, you know. And now I feel so guilty for how I raised him or what I did when he was young or she was young that I got to cover. I've got to make up for it now.
And you just mess them up in such a different way. I mean, it's really that guilt thing. We have to take that to the Lord and lay that, you know, on Him, and let Him take care of that in our hearts, because we can't live in that guilt stage because it will eat you alive. And you have to realize at some point that they are grown, at what age that they've made these decisions, then they can make a good decision. So, you know, one thing about Freeway, the very first time that Michael went there, I think it was people he saw there, because forever he would do a program, whatever. They don't know what I'm going through. They've never been in my shoes, but it wasn't like that at Freeway. And to see the way that the Lord had really changed some people he knew from the street really made him think, well, you know, I thought I was hopeless, but I think there's hope here. And that was a good thing.
You know, it's like you can't make up for your past. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might have made some mistakes as a parent. You might have, you know, like this lady I'm talking about, she committed crime in front of her son. She used drugs in front of her son. She was not right with God.
Yeah.
She did things she shouldn't have done. But then she got right with God. And he gets out, and she's like trying to go back and make sacrifices for the things that she did to make up for, you know. Yeah. And I tell parents all the time, it may make you feel good to give your son $100. Mm-hmm. You know, you may feel good about yourself now. I did something for, I love him, you know. Yes. But that's not loving them. Mm-mm. That $20 could have been the heroin that made him overdose. Yes. You know. And so you have to confront the issue. I messed up. Hey, first of all, here's my testimony. You know, whether you like it or not, this is who I used to be. I came to Christ. I surrendered my life to Him, and He's transformed me, and I'm not the same person anymore. And I ask you to forgive me for what I did. I'm seeking that forgiveness today. I do apologize. I do recognize that I am repentant of it. And I can't make up for the past, but this is who I am today. And then you move forward with that. And so that's something that we do work with parents with. And then the second thing is become an investor. And so the only thing you can invest in a drug addict is something they can't trade for drugs.
True.
And that's instructions. If someone wants to get into the program, so a lot of times people invest money. They'll pay their rent. They'll get them a place to stay. Mm-hmm. They'll buy them a car. That's investments. They're making investments in them. But those aren't good investments to me. I don't even think you should bond them out of jail. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
You know, and they did the crime. They got to take care of it. And there's going to be people that watch this from prison. They're not going to be happy with me. Mm-hmm. They're going to be upset with me. You know, and I don't. This may make everybody stop following us now that I say this, but I don't even think that, you know, you're wrong if you don't put money on their books. Mm-hmm. You know, I tell parents all the time, there's nothing wrong with putting money on your kids' books if they're in prison. If you got the money, you want to give them some hygiene money, a little food money. But I lived off $5 a month for 18 months. And I did I did the crime, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't need that investment. It would have been nice, I'm not going to lie. But,
yes.
But they got 3 hots and a cot, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing that we invest in someone who's struggling with addiction, this is how I know if someone's serious. I give them instructions. And if they do what I say, if they show up, if they make the phone call, if they fill out the application, that's the only way I know if they're serious. I tell moms, don't you fill that application out for them. Let them do that. Don't you
Yes.
call for them. Let them call, right?
Yes.
And so the one thing that a drug addict can't trade for drugs is instructions. And so I invest instructions in them, and when they do what I ask them to do, I invest more. Then my return on investment is them doing what I ask. And we work through that together, and that's called obedience-based discipleship.
Yes.
So, do you have anything you want to say about that?
No, I mean, I totally agree with that. And did I put money on the books? Yes. You know, I always made it too easy, but it just took me too long to learn. That's one thing I try to, if I share Michael's story with anybody, with the mother, even though I know that they're making the same mistakes I made, I'm saying, please don't do that, because it's child abuse, because you're just feeding into it. You're just supporting. And if you really change your thought process, instead of, oh, I'm helping, and thinking, I'm giving them money, I'm giving them away to just feed their habit, I'm making them a worse addict. You know, we need to think more that way. And how can I help? Well, you can help by not bailing them out, by not giving them the money, by not giving them a place to stay. I mean, for a while, Michael couldn't see his nieces and nephews, and that hurt me. But Jason was right in that. You know, our family was broken for a while, and it's so nice to be on the other side of that, you know, Uncle Mike's like a celebrity in the house, and it's nice to enjoy him.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's hope. You just have to keep believing and know that the Lord is with you.
And he is a good guy, and he's fun to be around. So Jesus, when he called someone, he 2 words he used a lot: follow me. And that's the investing. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If Jesus said, follow me, he just invested something in them, instructions. Right. And if they did what he said, then guess what happened? They got more.
Yes.
And they got more. And then eventually Jesus started saying really hard things. And then he turned around and most everybody was gone. And he looked to his apostles and he said, why aren't you gone? Aren't you going to leave me? And they said, where else do we have to go? You have the words of life. And, you know, this is a model. Jesus didn't drive sheep. He led the sheep, and the sheep followed him. And that's exactly what we do here is obedience-based discipleship. And so the last kind of nugget that I have is you touched on it, is start believing they can change.
Yes, because they can, even if it takes longer than you think, or you've seen failure and thought, well, no, they can't. They can. If we're praying and believing the Lord and what we're praying, they can change. And to actually see that person that struggled daily with addiction, to know that he's seeking the Lord and he's spending time in his Bible and he's going to Bible studies and he's going to Bible college, you know, and you go to his house and you see all these books, it just blesses you so much you just can't believe it.
So your son, who was a prisoner, inmate, drug addict, you name it, overdosed in your house.
Yes.
Today he has a career job. He is a Bible college student, probably with honors. I would bet he's getting really good grades.
Probably. Yes, he is.
He's working with his brother, planting a church.
Yes.
And he's very, very involved in his mom and his family's life.
Yes, yes, and we love it. We love it. You know, we have an above-ground pool, and I need to share a video with you where we have a flying mic where he's jumping on something into the pool where we're all laughing, belly laughing. And, you know, I can sit there and watch it and just thrive. Just joy is just bursting out because I think how far we've come. The joy just out of simple things.
One of the things that I encourage people to do is a lot of times in foreign countries, it's called storytelling. And so they find the stories in the Bible and they share the stories in the Bible in their native tongue. And so I've memorized stories in the Bible. the woman at the well.
Mm-hmm.
I share that with a woman who's a prostitute. If I see someone in the streets, I feel like they're involved in prostituting or they're giving themselves over for drugs, I tell them about the woman at the well. Because I believe that if God could change that woman at the well, he could change that woman on the street. And then if there's somebody who's tormented on drugs or been in and out of prison, I'll share the man who was demon possessed, and I think it's Matthew 5. He's tormented day and night. He cuts himself with rocks, and he was homeless. He lived in the tombs, and it says they couldn't chain him even with chains. But there was a day Jesus came to see him, and delivered him, and clothed him, and put him in his right mind, and called him to be a preacher. It says he traveled Decapolis. And Jesus said, you can't go with me. Go tell your friends what I've done for you. And it says he proclaimed it in Decapolis. Decapolis is 10 cities, is a region. This guy was a traveling evangelist, you know. Yeah. And so I find these places in the Bible to meet these people where they're at, and I want them to believe they can change.
Yes, they have to.
And we need to believe they can change, right?
Yes.
And so, last of all, Miss Sue, what would you say to a parent or a loved one who's struggling with their child in addiction? They just don't know what to do. What would you tell them today?
Well, first off, don't carry the burden by yourself.
Amen.
That's where Randy and I should have confided with the pastor or even our class, anybody, just because there's other people that's been in your shoes. You just don't think it. I don't think the stigma is there as it used to be, you know, of somebody saying, oh, their son's a drug addict. I think drugs affect so many families. It doesn't matter what money level you're at or wherever, whether you're, you know, somebody on the street or a doctor. I think it goes everywhere. And I don't think we should carry the shame. I think we should reach out and say, this is where I am. Do you know anything about this? How can you help me? And I think it would have educated us a lot more where we could have done better. But the biggest thing is praying for them, but letting them go. You have to let go and let God, or nothing's going to change. You will continue to do something until somebody dies.
Yeah. Well, you can't be Jesus.
Nope.
Don't cover for him.
No.
Don't create a false world.
No.
Don't parent out of guilt. Be an investor. Believe they can change.
Yes.
And I tell parents all the time, and this is hard to hear, but you got to live your life.
Yes. Yeah.
You have a life to live. Like, you raised your children.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the home. You have to enjoy your husband. You have to enjoy your wife. You have to enjoy your time and say, hey, look, we lived our life.
Yes.
We parented. We raised them. Now they have to get this thing figured out. I cannot do it for them.
As an adult, they have to. And you have to remember how you felt when you were 18 and out of home. You thought your parents didn't know anything and you knew everything. So we have to realize they have to make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
They just do, good or bad.
Yep. And I tell them my number's the same.
Right.
We're in the same place we've been. When you're ready, we'll be here.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But be
All right.
serious.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Sue. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you can tune in to One Broken Life on YouTube. You can share it. You can support Freeway. This is a ministry of Freeway Ministries. This is the dollars we get for this equipment and this and that. You can become a one-time partner or a monthly partner and join us as we help reach one broken life at a time. So until next time, John Stroup with Freeway Ministries, One Broken Life. We'll see you later.